Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Kim Lakeford, and I'm best known as Kim Sobel Christensen, born on the 27th September 1960 in Denmark. I moved to Australia in 1970 and lived in Australia for 48 years. And then I was unlawfully deported to Denmark, and I've been in Denmark now for about 6 years. Now I'm the author of the book called The Testimony of a Drug Lord Reborn. And it's pretty much self-explanatory. I used to be a drug lord. In 2012, I flatlined, passed over, declared dead, whatever you want to call it, near-death experience. I went through a very mythological event. Then I went through a transformation that's so difficult to try and explain, and in a way you'd even understand. I went through something very mythological. And I can put a lot of different details to this. But right now, I need you to understand something. I've made more than 3,800 videos here with more information than you could ever begin to imagine. I'm chosen for the moment that we're in now, no matter what. And there's a reason why I'm here. The thing is, I'm a very unique character. I'm an extremely different type of character than practically any other person in the world. And they're just facts. I come from a whole different walk of life. My experience, wisdom and knowledge has taken turns that most people in the world would never even dare to take. I have been connected to people in top levels in the underground world, police and politicians, people we call NASA, NSA in the think tanks, the national crime authorities, the federal police at the highest levels. I've been involved in numerous things in my history, very unique things, and I've lived a completely different way of life than most other people in the whole world has. And therefore I have a completely different perception and a different view about things than practically anyone in the world does. And there is a reason for that. So the important part I'm here to disclose is the most important information in the world. Because of the character I am, I don't think you'll find another character like me at all. If there's anyone out there even remotely close to a person like me, they will not be on a social media platform. And I doubt they'd be chosen the way I was. And I doubt they'd have any of the information I do. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Now, different people are chosen for different things all over the world. Or different people come from different walks of life, different education, etc. The fact is I've worked with the top scientists from NASA in a project that they were carrying out for 40 years. And this project has everything to do with mRNA technology. And mRNA technology's got a lot of things to do with everything today. But you see, I'm here for another reason. I come with a lot of information as a biologist and a scientist and put a lot of pieces together with the top scientists in the world and the top biologists. One of the biggest exploding things all over the world is about stem cell research and study and cellular, our body cells. You know, CRISPR, DNA enhancements, DNA editing, genes, all these things. How we create hybrids, clones, etc., etc. How we conduct to light, power and energy, and how we conduct to negative energy. How we function biologically, what the Christ tool is, as we hear a lot about, in our pineal gland. We create two monocrystal mentality and graphene oxide serum that makes our body cells conduct to 7 times more positive power and energy when it's activated. Now, we create this between 0 and 7, but then it dies between 7 and 15. And because it dies from 7 to 15, we go into what's called a death experience and also have amnesia. And that's hard to fathom. It's even hard to face. But when you have amnesia, that means you don't know. So there's nothing to fear about this. Absolutely nothing. You see, when I died, I broke free from amnesia. So it was only then through a transformation for 4 years that I really discovered things that I never even observed myself. It is one hell of a dramatic experience to go through something like this. And it's even harder to face. But what happens is when you break free from amnesia, you can't function with others. You've got complete control of your mind, and your mind no longer controls you. And that's the best way to explain it, because that's what happens. You think you're a certain character your whole life, and everything you've done your whole life, and then you discover everything that you knew was wrong. Nearly everything you knew about the whole world and everything else is more inverted than you realize, because you were inverted as well. And then you realize that you had amnesia. And once you break free from amnesia, you can't go back, because you go into your primordial state, the very state we're not in. And you become free from what we call the human conditioning. Stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia. You can't be deceived. Once you become a mastermind and you think outside the mind, and you break free from amnesia, you effectively become a complete mastermind. Now, there are documents written about me by the authorities and the biggest think tank in the world that I'm a mastermind. And I just want you to observe that very carefully. Now, the fact is, my walk of life took a very different path. And no matter what I did is very important with the information that I discovered through my path. All the pieces about my history all go together to fit one very important thing, and that is the human conditioning. Now, the human conditioning is declared that the whole Western civilization suffers the human conditioning. That was declared in 1999. By 2019, it was declared to be 5 times worse and accelerating 7 times faster. That was confirmed 3 months ago. So no matter how people think, the fact is, we're in a time where there's a lot of confusion and frustration, a time where people are very egotistical, very judgmental. People think too much and conquer and divide too much. People lost, people polarized, people are hypnotized into a hypnotized state, and they have amnesia. I've got into a lot of depth explanations about this with the top biologists and scientists in the world. Now, today we have teachers all over the world teaching us how to think differently. Jeremy Griffiths, the top biologist in the whole world, who leads 15,500 scientists in the IPP science reports, they declared that the primary problem of climate was stripped from our sixth sense. That's our natural organic motor skills to think instinctively. Today we think psychologically 95 to 99% of the time. And that goes for every human being on earth, no matter what they say. Most people don't believe in it. That's what the problem is. That's what the biggest problem is. People do not believe it. But when they have amnesia, they don't know. And when they don't know and they refuse to believe in it, they have nothing to gain. So therefore, we keep going the same direction, flat out. Only a handful of people in the whole world has discovered this. Now, if you go to Dr. Bruce Lipton, okay, and listen to what he has to say, then I want you to think about this. He explains everything that he possibly can with his history, with his knowledge, and he is a mastermind of what he's doing. However, he explains it the way that he learns about it and how he's learned about it. And I want you to observe that very carefully. We have Joe Dispenza, who teaches much the same things, but explains it a little bit differently than Dr. Bruce Lipton. We have David Icke, who also explains all the same things about the inverted and many extraordinary things that matches these two people with the abilities that we have and the slavery system we're in. Now, we have Winhoff, who's won a Nobel Prize, the biggest physiologist in the world, who was also chosen for this, and he recreates some monikers we can't create through a breathing process and cold showers. This is why he's won a Nobel Prize. Winhoff keeps it very basic and don't get into all the scientific theories about things or the quantum fields, etc., etc., etc. He's a man who can do it. He's a man who's living it with 27 Guinness Book of Records for superhuman abilities as he's going back to his primordial state. He's the front line of this, or one of the people in the front line who's actually doing this in genuine, real life, not talking about it as a scientist or a professor or anyone like this. So therefore, Winhoff himself has the experience, wisdom, and knowledge, and the research has been done on this, and he's won a Nobel Prize. So please pay attention to what I'm saying here. I'm one of the biggest experts about what happens to you biologically in a whole different aspect and a whole different perception than what all these people are explaining. Jeremy Griffiths wrote the book Freedom, the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. The top biologist in the whole world has hailed him to be the #1 person with the most important book on the planet, the Holy Grail of understanding ourselves biologically. Now, Jeremy Griffiths studied Plato and the human conditioning from the days of Noah, the pharaohs in the Egyptian days, the Persians and the Greeks, and also the Roman days, and he studied these things for 45 years. You see, in every one of those empires, they had the human conditioning, where things happen exactly the same way they're happening today. Only today is on a massive global scale rather than just one civilization. You see, it was only those civilizations that was going through all the things we're going through now. But it's also kept and suppressed in a certain area until it collapsed. Now it's on a global scale, and we have a global pandemic with the human conditioning. And most people don't believe in it. Every person in Western civilization has 7,000 defective genes. In every body cell research done through DNA tests, in every person in the world, they have no sixth sense. Their body cells are going corruption, coercion, collusion. Because they think in the wrong mindset with a high IQ. And when you think with your 5 senses, it's actually negative. When you think with your 6th sense, it's positive. It's how positive feels. We convey feelings to thoughts from 2 outside influences on our reality. When we go to sleep, our body repairs. But when we're awake, it does the opposite. And of course, it depends on what you consume, what you entertain, and how much you care about yourself correctly, and what you're consuming when you eat. Molecules, vitamins, minerals, and all the things that are not good for you. Water has a personality, and I've gone into a lot of explanations about this. You're 75% water, and your cells in your body, in your DNA, has a personality. And we can prove that with water. If you take 2 plates of water and talk ugly to one and beautiful to another, put it in the freezer overnight, take it out in the morning, and you'll see. That's what our DNA is like. Our DNA is like the plate that you talk ugly to, where you can see all the molecules are in corruption, coercion, collusion, and look ugly. The plate you talk beautiful to looks beautiful, and all the cells work together. You can get a test at any Unifed in the world, a DNA test in 2 seconds, where they can put your blood under a microscope, and you can see your body cells are in corruption, coercion, collusion, and look ugly. And then they'll give you a molecule, and 15 minutes later, you will see your body cells look like the plate you talk beautiful to, with light around them, which is the 6th sense. So you can see how much is missing from us. And it doesn't mean you're evil or bad or anything like this. What it means is we're stripped from our 6th sense. However, it's also classified as a spiritual connection. So therefore, in these videos here, I'm going to explain things to you with basic common sense. And I'm not going to use sophisticated language or model engineering. You see, we've been twisting the fabric of truth non-stop from generation to generation. We consistently mold new languages, and things get more complicated with more languages. So people use more theories or new way of speaking or sophisticated language to explain things. And they rely more and more on science and biology to explain things. And when you have people in the world that rely so much on the science and the new model techniques in languaging And they depend on that so much, you can tell they're not really spiritually connected with real, genuine faith. And that's what you have to observe. People that need to use their tools and their education and their profession to explain things and can only explain that way is in fact extremely limited, no matter how high their IQ is. IQ makes you really good at what you do, but in fact not intelligent. Now that's evidence has come out all over the world, but most people aren't listening. Well, people with a high IQ, in fact, has what we call brain deformity. 125 plus IQ is brain deformity. And those people always have mental breakdowns and are always stuck in a certain mindset where they can't accelerate any further. They can only use their IQ and between 7 and 11% of their brain at any given time. A person who can master mind can use 100% of their mind and are not limited and have completely different perceptions with an outside influence with dimensional thinking. So that outside influence in your reality changes all the circumstances. That's what happens when you break free from amnesia. You start to use an outside influence, which what we consider as being information, 7 times more information recorded with evidence. So we call it 7 times wisdom and knowledge written in the Bible, in the oldest Bibles in the world. So we're coming into a new timeline with 7-fold wisdom and knowledge, which means we're coming free from amnesia to discover these things and use these tools. And a lot of people are oblivious to this. And that's why I'm going to use certain biblical terms for a reason, because you'll see the picture a lot more clearly. Because the Bible explains things with simplicity and straight to the point without modeling things. That's why I'm going to use these quotes in the Bible in metaphor. The Bible's written in metaphor, and I'm just going to quote certain paragraphs in the Bible when I quote certain things, okay? But I'm not here to talk to you about any religious thing or biblically. However, the Bible knew more things, and so did indigenous people, that we're just beginning to start to scratch the surface off now. When you realize why it's been declared like this, that the whole world's in post-human stage and can't think straight, and been molded into this, in such a way that the last human beings born that we discovered was born in the outback of Australia in 1960. In the Western civilization, the last person born, or the last person that we believe that could think instinctively, naturally, and organically with their natural motor skills, that was highly intelligent, was more than 120 years ago. So therefore, no white person in the whole world is basically in their primal human state anymore, which means they're in post-human stage, no longer human, no longer productive. Now, that's a hardcore bit of information, but see, people continue to avoid this. They continue to avoid it on every level. The governments do, the scientists, professors do, and the whole Western civilization does. So you can imagine what's happening. As a result from this, we think 7 times more than 45 years ago. And we also consume 7 times more per capita. We consume ridiculously. So a lot of people are going into slavery to feed that consumption. And a lot of people are being hurt in this world due to this consumption. 83% of people die every single day from stress-related diseases. And we know that our body cells are going corruption, corrosion, collusion in every study done. Mental disorders, gene defects, cancer defects, every single thing in the world comes down to the same thing. Our body cells are going corruption, corrosion, and collusion. Our body cells research study in every single thing. We're in the wrong mindset and losing our sixth sense, which is our power. And that's what's causing this. So the primary problem for climate is we're stripped from our sixth sense and in post-human stage, and nobody's facing it. Because everyone's become more psychological, more psychosis, more selfish, more egotistical, more judgmental, more competitive. And we're programmed to be competitive, to be like this, to use these tools, which are inverted. And that's what strips us from our sixth sense. And so it's what strips us from our molecules between 7 and 15 years old. I've gone into a lot of details about this. We think we're intelligent, but then we have to consume certain products and take methamphetamine or ADHD medication or some kind of depression tablet that has the same drug delivery system in it. And that delivery system happens to be a conductor, and without that conductor, we can't function. I put up a video yesterday, and I made a video last night with the same link. I urge that you go and have a look at it. right? And watch the experts talk about how the whole world is in a massive hypnotized state. The whole world. I've been bringing you this information ever since I came here 3.5 years ago, that the world's polarized. When I was put through this process, when I wrote my book, The Testimony of a Drug Lord Reborn, it unfolded perfectly. It can now be seen as the evidence that no man on earth can debunk or discredit. It's impossible. If any man does, he's mentally insane. So I want you to understand something. 90% of people discredit everything without reading the book, which means they're mentally insane. Okay? 90% of people that follows me thinks I'm crazy when in fact they are and accuse me of what they're guilty of. They don't know anything. But they come out with that conclusion immediately, which means they have a voice in their mind telling them to do that. Now, Jeremy Griffiths, in the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history to try and discover the cure of the human conditioning, they found it. And no one can explain this better than the person who actually brought it to him, obviously. But people are completely inverted back to front. When a scientist or biologist discovers something, they discover it from somewhere. They're not the ones that really knows about it. They just tell their story in their scientific field or their expression from their history and from what they've been researching for 10, 20, 30, 40 or 50 years. But when they research books and then when they research everything, right, with education and books and model engineering, and don't know in real life, they do not have the genuine experience, wisdom, and knowledge to explain these things. They can only tell from their education and their walk of life. So therefore, what we're having with it, what we have been dealing with all over the world is we're dealing with people explaining all these things in different ways that in fact can lead to more confusion and frustration than ever. And it's also doing that because people are using the inverted tools. So when Joe Dispenza or Dr. Bruce Lipton explains things, right, they can't actually show you someone who can do it. And they can't actually teach you how to do it, how to use these tools. And that's why I want your attention, okay? That's why I really need the world's attention on this. And that includes the biggest think tanks in the world involved in this. And NSA and every person in the world must pay undivided attention to what I'm saying, because I'm different than everybody else and I'm extremely unique. And there's only a handful of us left in the world. And if people don't listen to us right now, they're not going to get this right, no matter what. They're putting themselves through the same process because of one very important tool, inverted tools. We use inverted tools. And as long as we use the inverted tools, we're not going to get this. This is so important to you. Now, I can sit here and talk to you all day, but I've made 3,800 videos and my books unfold with evidence, and I bring information to the planet that no one else is succeeding at, and I'm going to prove it to you. For 3.5 years here, I've done a lot of repetition because repetition is wisdom and knowledge, and you have to repeat yourself over and over and over to get through people's thick skull. And that might be really hard, but see, I'm going to use some basic common sense for all my videos, and you need to pay attention because you understand these things really clearly without any confusion. We have a gut feeling, right? A gut feeling, survival mode, the very preservation mode for life that activates the molecules. Think about that. Just think about that for a moment, right? Our gut feeling is survival mode, the very mechanism that triggers off survival mode, the very preservation mode for life. Be a good idea to understand that. We call it the chakra. It's our gut feeling. Our gut feeling fires up, right, in such a way, like if you're being attacked by a bear, for instance, you stop thinking and go into fight-flight mode, and you move 7 times faster without thinking to save your life because it's a life preservation mode. And that's a gut feeling, bang, right? The bear's coming to get you and you activate and you respond 7 times faster and you stop thinking in a heartbeat and respond in a heartbeat without thinking to save your life. Now that's your instinctive behavior, okay? Your instincts is 7 times faster than you're thinking. You have a natural capacity to use these tools 99% of the time. You only need this part of your mind 1 to 5%. That's now recorded on documents. We think incorrectly. What powers up our instincts is our heart, and our heart is our biological mind, with 40,000 cells that controls our whole biological system. Now, what's extraordinary important you must understand is that we have 8 tools of what's called the right tools. The right tools that we feel, not think. When we go into survival mode, we only feel, we don't think. Those tools activate, okay? And we're not activated to those tools anymore. And we can see them today in the biological world and the physics world. The way they discovered and put these pieces together is with frequencies, 8 frequencies. And these 8 frequencies are very high and very fine and very thin, right? To explain it to you, you have 200 frequencies that are negative here. Okay, they run radio waves, telephone wires, etc., etc., etc. They have a personality. And then we have 8 that are very high in frequencies, right? Very fine, and they have to be perfect. They have to be perfect, and this is very important here, which means in order for us to conduct with these frequencies, we have to be perfectly in line, which means in balance, in peace, in harmony, completely free from all things that are negative. And then we conduct with these 8 frequencies perfectly. And those 8 frequencies, right, we can also call them the watchers, the angels that watch over us, or the glory of God's love pouring all over us, right? We feel it so extraordinary when we conduct to it. It's loyalty, honor, respect, moral, empathy, and remorse, inspiration, and encouragement. They're the 8 tools of righteousness. They're the 8 angels of righteousness. They're the watchers that watch over us. They're our ancestors. I can put a lot of words to this with basic common sense. Today we call it frequencies, right? But when we call it frequency, we downgrade what it really is. That's what's important. We downgrade from its true meaning. Because when you're tapped into this, what you feel is only that. But people can't explain that unless they have broken free from amnesia and completely in harmony with these frequencies. But what you feel is pure love and inspiration and encouragement to the maximum capacity. You're now in your primal state, in your true gravity. And it's like nothing but love that pours all over you. So in the Bible, it's called the glory of love pouring over you. The rain of God, right? God's love, the reign of God. And that's so easy to understand when you're living it. Then you understand that that's the best way to explain it. Not what anyone else is saying in the world with any other theory or any other evolutional theory or any molding or engineering. When you're living in it and you're feeling it, it's extraordinary. It's liberation in ways that can't be explained in words because you can't explain it. You cannot explain it. There's no way of explaining these things, no matter what language you use. Like, we're trying too much to explain things with the most sophisticated technology today, right? The greatest science in the world that we have today. We have so much technology within our technology and God knows what else. We can keep going here for another 15 years. The reality is we're molding things that confuse us even more and more and more without even realizing it because we think we're doing something good for society and really coming through with the answers. But why do we keep looking for answers to begin with? Why have we lost our natural primal state to go back? Because we need to go back, not forward. You have to use your basic common sense. That makes you intelligent. That's recorded in every document. So you've got to stop using your IQ and sophisticated language and all science. And yet that's what we depend on so much. And these people that comes with this information, we all do. That's the problem. And I know it's hardcore, but when you look at NASA and NSA and what they've discovered through paperclip program, Looking Glass, and all the programs they've done, right, with consciousness and subconsciousness and all these things, I'm going deep here. Because whatever's being exposed by the CIA documents and everything they talk about and whistleblowers all over the world, they still tell their little story with the way that they're educated and the knowledge they have, and even the information coming from NASA and documents and everything about these things, right? They're using a lot of certain tools, but they're not explaining things because they're not living it. They're not in those fields correctly to use these abilities. Not the way that they think. They're using tools from negative fields that has the same amount of power, right? The same amount of power. But there are other frequencies that gives you even greater power, far greater power. With an outside influence in your reality that can move mountains, that can split oceans, that can stop every nuclear warhead and NSA on its feet, like that in a glitch. That's been done before. And 6 international events at the same time where everything went down like this without a glitch in the system. The power is incredible. An outside influence is so powerful you have no idea. Now, I've made a lot of videos about this, and there's a lot of information about this, and you can FOI the documents yourself to satisfy your reptilian brain if you don't have faith. It's up to you. It's the way you think and judge, and it's the way that you need to satisfy yourself non-stop, and because you don't have any faith. And that's a fact. 90% of people throw stones at me because they have no faith. And they're stripped from it. They're stripped from their faith system. Completely. Because when you strip from your sixth sense, you strip from your faith system. And most people don't believe in it. Go and get a DNA test and you'll find out in 2 seconds flat. Now, if I do a DNA test, my immune system's 27 times more powerful than a vaccination. Yours is collapsed by 2/3 to 95%. I can repair my genes down immune system. I have been declared dead 3 times, and I'm still here. I've created miracles in hospital where I was paralyzed from my neck down, so I never walked again, walked out of hospital 45 minutes later. And I've gone into a lot of deep details about this. I know people who's died 5, 6, 7, 8 times and can tell you stories that you're not listening to. I can tell you stories from the wisest civilization in this world that lives to be 150 plus years old, that has no mental defects whatsoever, no gene defects, no cancer defects, and do not suffer one little thing that every Western world does. No confusion, no frustration, no delusion, no paranoia, no stress, no anxiety, none whatsoever. No confusion, no frustration, and they don't think the way you do. They think instinctively 99% of the time and can do extraordinary things like levitate 2-ton stones, pick up a car, move things, and nature works with them in ways you've never seen. They can provide things through the atmosphere that no one else can. They have an outside influence like no one else has. I personally have very heavy experience in this with great wisdom and knowledge that most people don't have. We explain these things in ways other people can't. They can't. They call it a miracle, or we have a whole heap of people that think they know because they follow too many doctors and scientists and too much evolutionary theories and too much education and a high IQ that makes them damn good at what they do to also control the situation and manipulate others because they can't do these things neither. And when they don't have the great experience with some knowledge and can't explain with some basic common sense, what they're doing is entertaining people and distracting people and consistently go around the same circle and don't get anywhere. Now, I know it's confronting, but today you have to understand 93% of people are considered to be beyond the point of return, completely stripped from their sixth sense, and nothing in this world can change it. Nothing can change these people, which means they're in brain-locked denial and hypnotized into this polarized state where they cannot change. And that's declared by the top biologists in the whole world. Very few people waking up to this. We believe there's only 100 million people across the planet, maybe 200 million that's waking up. Most people that claims to be awake and people that are in fact waking up, they're still avoiding this themselves, this particular subject. It doesn't mean anyone's evil. A lot of people are waking up to what's happening all over the world, but not doing anything about it. And because they don't do anything about it, that's what the problem is. That's what the real problem is. When they consistently refuse to do something about it, they're also not going back to their primal state to recreate these molecules neither. That's what the problem is. They don't think they're affected by this. A lot of people know they're spiritual all over the world and think with their heart, their intuition. But you see, they only use those tools up to 5% of the time. Okay? You see, some people use their instincts 5% of the time, some use it 1. So some people use it 5 times more than others. But there is a handful of people left in the world, we call the last human beings born, who uses 99% of the time. And we know how much you have to gain. And you don't. Because when you live in denial about it, you can't gain anything. And I go into certain processes about what you can really genuinely do about this to restore your primal state instinctively and think outside the mind and be free from these things. This is where this video is going to be the most important video in the world. This is where this information is going to be the most important information in the world, to every think tank in the world and NSA. So if you're listening out there, pay attention to what I'm saying to you. If you look at every platform in the world right now teaching whatever, whenever, and what about what, doesn't matter. Light, power, and entity, fifth dimensional thinking, okay, new platforms all over the world, new belief systems, top scientists, top biologists, every single one of them around the world, all of them, there's something missing. There's one very important thing that's missing, and without that tool, nobody is getting it. So I want to make something clear to you. If you take a look at any platform in the world, Jason Shurker, Ismail Perez, Laurie Ladd, Truth Seekers, these are just little guys. Okay, let's go to the big ones. Dr. Jordan Peterson, David Icke, Jonathan Kahn, who wrote the book Return of the Gods, Thomas and Thorne, Sea Guys 225, the top elect people in the world, Winhoff won a Nobel Prize, Jeremy Griffiths, who wrote the book Freedom on the World Transformation Movement, how to be the number one person moving the whole platform with every top scientist in the world, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and many other big names in the world. If you take a look at their followers, and if you have a look at their achievements, and some of these people are old men of renowned wisdom and knowledge that's been working on these things for many, many years. I want you to take a look at their achievements, the followers, the ones that follows each platform the most, the people in the world, okay? Don't look at any of these people. Look at the people that are following them. Look at the churches and the people that are following the churches right now. Look at everybody in the world. Who's reborn? Who's broken free from amnesia to discover these things? The resurrection of humanity is every one of these platforms trying their best to break people free from amnesia and resurrecting humanity back into their primal state, the image we're created in. To use their intuition, but what's been achieved out of this? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Put every platform together. What are they achieving? Let me tell you something. 93% of Western civilization takes drugs to numb themselves and lie about it. Methamphetamine and ADHD medication is found in every blood system in 93% of the human population, and they can't cope without it. They can't cope without it. Just stop and think about this for a second. 93%. So we know people on social media platform has a lot of confidence are the ones that takes the most drugs and suffers the most off the platforms. We also know that. So they make a character on social media platform, and most of them take one kind of drug delivery system or another with the molecules to conduct with to give them the confidence. So you can't see it. You can't see what they're like when they're not on a social media platform and what they really do in their life, but their action speaks out in words and their words mean nothing. Words and what they think means absolutely nothing. It's the action. Let's take a look at the action in all these people and look at what the results are. And when you really look at their action and what the results are in every person in the world, what do you see? Let me tell you something. I have been doing certain things a certain way that most people do not like, but I get through people's thick skull in ways others don't. I break them free from amnesia. And now it's one of the most crucial moments in human history for people to start observing things. Not me, not any of these people, but what the results are from the people following them. If you take a look at the people following me that's been paying attention, they have broken free from amnesia, and most of them in tears, genuine tears. They're meeting up in real life, flesh to flesh. They're talking in ways that nobody else in the world is talking about anybody else. They're achieving things that no one else is achieving. They're breaking free from amnesia and free from the human condition we all suffer from so much. And they're discovering who they are. They're discovering how to use these tools. They're discovering things that no one else is. They're resurrecting back in their primal state with the correct information and not twisting the fabric of truth. And what do? They listen to me very carefully. And they listen to the fact that, number one, listen to Jeremy Griffiths first. The man who wrote the book Freedom, how to be the number one person who explains things in a biological way that is the holy grail of understanding ourselves biologically. This is number one tool. If you don't go to this tool first and pay attention to why we suffer so much and why we're so selfish, egotistical, judgmental, and competitive, and why we're so confused and frustrated, if you don't deal with this first, you'll never put the pieces together. And I explain this the fastest way and bring people to this attention to do the Win-Off Breathing program every morning with a cold shower to activate with in the fight-flight mode and recreate the molecules with 7 times more positive power and energy. And when you do this, you receive the information that alters every decision you make automatically, because it's not about thinking, it's about not thinking. It comes automatically. It's an outside influence when you tap into those frequencies and you live by them. You have to be this. You have to live by this and create what we consider as being a relationship, a genuine relationship with those frequencies or those tools of righteousness. And if you get your mindset out of every other thing in this world and just put it all on the shelf, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, whatever you believe in, just put all things aside that you've come to believe in or what you follow, it doesn't matter. Concentrate on this alone, your own primal state. Concentrate on your natural organic motor skills. Concentrate on your instincts to feel things between right, wrong, good and evil. These are the tools that needs to be reactivated back into your primal state in the gravity that you were created in. And then you break free and start to alter every single thing in your life. You become free from stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia, and never suffer the consequences ever again, because the voice in your mind is ultimately designed for human extinction. And I'll go into many details explaining this, right? That we're possessed by another entity, and I explain exactly how, why, and what's happened for 120 years. And people don't like thinking about this, but the more you think about it, the more you're possessed by that entity. The more you're controlled by your mind, and the more you're controlled by your mind, the more you're controlled by an outside influence, your reality to negative feels, and you think you're talking to yourself, but you're not. You convey feelings to thoughts and explain your own biological language, which means you're not talking to yourself. It's all by design on reverse psychology, and when you do this, your pineal gland shuts down, and your Christ door begins to die between 7 and 15 because you think too much. And you only activate that once in a blue moon in certain incidents like being attacked by a bear or in a car accident, when you go into shock, right? That's the only time you activate and do extraordinary things. Or when you go to sleep and your body repairs, right? Or when you make real, genuine, passionate love, but not sex. Most sex today is created from negative feelings, not from pure love. So therefore you don't activate instinctively. That's only done with passion, with those 8 frequencies. So when you make love and you create a baby, that baby through pure love becomes a positive human being. But when it's 2 negative people that does it through sex, that child becomes more inverted than anyone, to use 5 senses. And we have to understand how this affects us biologically and goes into our genes, and it's hereditary, because the result from this is that all the people who've been born like this from sex and not the right frequencies are the most inverted and stripped from their 6th sense, and that's the majority of the population. And that's hardcore news, but it is the fact. We discovered this biologically, and the truth here, and it's very dramatic. Very few people have been conceived through genuine love in those frequencies. And they're the only people that are positive in any way, shape, or form that uses different tools with their intuition. The others were created from the mindset, created from negative fields, and therefore they're negative creatures. Negative human beings, polarized and hypnotized into the state, and they're beyond the point of return. They're stuck in a reincarnation trap. We've got the evidence for this, and I certainly come with the most powerful evidence about this as well, with a mythological event that happened, right? Where people are stuck in a reincarnation trap, and they've been stuck in there for 1,000 years by using these tools. Now we're coming into a new timeline of sevenfold wisdom knowledge where we break free from amnesia and break free from the reincarnation trap. And we live to be 1,000 years of the tree of life and not the tree of knowledge. And that's why I'm giving you a lot of details about this, because I have disciples or people following me all over the world from all walks of life. And they're not the people you think. They're not the people that you pay attention to the most. Absolutely not even remotely close. They're people from the streets, suffering on drugs, ordinary people from all walks of life. I have police officers, I have military people, I have pastors and priests, I have politicians, I have psychiatrists and doctors, and most people who are just ordinary people. That's always known they're suffering for some reason and always seeing something's wrong with the world. They're the people that come to me, and those people that pay attention the absolute most and practice what I preach are beginning to break free from amnesia all over the world. And they're discovering something about life they never knew. These people are starting to get together all over the world now, and this is going to start moving platforms massively. And the tools I give them is the tools of Jeremy Griffiths, the World Transformation Movement, with the book Freedom. Listen to 14 of his videos. Pay attention to what Dr. Bruce Lipton does say, okay, and how we program and what our body cells really do. Same with Joe Dispenza. Win Off the Breathing program is something I urge that you do every morning with a cold shower to activate the molecules. Listen to Dr. Jordan Peterson as he talks about going back to our primordials, back to our primordial state, back to our morals in the right place, back to our principalities in the right place, and being a man and a woman again. That's why he's chosen for this. David Icke talks about the inverted, and when you put all these pieces together, you understand something. All the followers around the world that's been following these people, the people with the highest success rate is Winhoff and I, right? We really teach people things, but Winhoff doesn't quite explain things that are happening here with amnesia neither, because he doesn't use those tools as a physicist and a person who's won a Nobel Prize. You can't talk about biblical stuff. But he was chosen, and he makes that clear, and he also says the world's full of BS. It's about love, and it's about believing. It's thinking outside the mind to discover these things. And he says the right things, but he doesn't use the wording I do. I'm the most suppressed because I use those words. When we start talking about God and the outside influence and put biblical stuff to it, they're the ones who get suppressed the most when they put these tools together. That's why Jeremy Griffiths doesn't talk about any of these things, but he did declare that the voice in the mind is ultimately designed for human extinction, which matches what John says in Revelation, that it's the voice in the skull. Right? And it matches what Jesus said, think outside the mind, you can do what I can and more. He broke free from amnesia at 24 and discovered who he was. Then he took 12 people and broke them free from amnesia over 7 years, and they could also do what he did, as he promised them. When he broke them free from amnesia and a cycle of life for 7 years, they could do what he can and more. And this is what I'm teaching here, because I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing by being in the right image and using the right tools. And that's what's so crucial. I was designed for this moment. I went into prison, right, on corruption in 2000 when they went into the biggest research to discover these things. And I brought all this information in 2008 to Jeremy Griffiths, the biggest bowlers in the world. And I discovered the preservation mode for life in 2008. And that preservation went into scientific research with the discovery through Dr. Bruce Lipton and all the research that came out in 2012, and same with the book Freedom that came out in 2016. So I want you to understand that these people were always researching these things. But it wasn't until they got the information from the prison system in this investigation, from the people that could actually do this, people that didn't suffer from a mental institutionalization and were free from the human conditioning, and they could preserve life. They could create the molecules to preserve life, a preservation of life. And that's what it's about, a preservation of life. It all comes down to the key figure, and that's just the key figure. Negativity creates extinction, positivity creates life. End the story. And that's where you have to start, at the top, not at the bottom. When you understand that, we're a loving, compassionate creature, but we have 8 tools that makes us a loving, compassionate creature. And those 8 tools is what we feel in life, not what we think. Loyalty, honor, respect, moral, remorse, inspiration, and encouragement. They're the 8 tools of righteousness that gives you the inspiration and encouragement to stand strong and never mold the truth. Never ever normalize what was moral yesterday or twist the fact of the truth. You just don't. You don't have to. When you use those 8 tools, you don't require any other tools in the world to use to manipulate anyone, right? You don't have to justify with any other scientific quantum fields or any other BS. But the reality is, Dr. Bruce Lipton's correct about many things. Our central nervous system, our whole neurons for our body is a tree of life inside us. But it doesn't understand things. And Jeremy Griffiths explains this the best. Our nerves doesn't understand because we think too much in negative fields. And that's why we suffer the consequences. But our neurons is trying to understand things with more questions, more answers, more theories rather than facts. Our body cells are going corruption, corruption, illusion, and they can work together like they're in a community. Okay? In a community. When we live by the right tools, right, in our primal state in real life, our body cells does exactly the same things and work together and repair our genes, the immune system, and with the counsel of the mind. So when we have faith inside, we can see a different perception, we can see the future, we can see every domino effect with an outside influence of reality through the atmosphere, and we can change the atmosphere. We have the power to change the atmosphere. When you have these 8 frequencies and the love pours all over you, you change the atmosphere and your aura around you, and it spreads like a virus. So we create heaven and earth like this. By mastering your mind and using the outside influence, you pull that outside influence down upon you, and you're connected with that relationship by living by it. And it's a genuine relationship, and it's the only way to explain it. You must be connected with love and those frequencies, right? Those tools, they are your angels. They are your watchers. And each one, right, is an angel of righteousness. And they are real. They come in little small min lights and bigger min lights, which is the divine light, and they work with certain people. And a lot of people are oblivious to this. I've shown this on videos, in live videos, where they're floating around here everywhere, the angels. They make themselves present sometimes. That's how I was chosen. And very few people are chosen like this. Very few people have these kind of events happening. And most people do not believe in it because they're jealous, spineless, weak cowards. And when your spine's not working, Jacob's ladder's not working, which is what the 33-degree Freemasons use. The 33-degree Freemasons is 33 steps on your spine. Jacob's ladder. It's actually the shiver in your spine. When you have a gut feeling, survival mode, you activate with a meth effect because you create those molecules with graphene oxide serum to conduct with, and you're alert, alive, awake and aware without a psychedelic effect, or creating the dormants or endopamines to make you stoned, because that's what you do when you think all the time. And you watch more social media platform, and you're texting, and you're listening to information, you're using dopamines, and you're in 5 senses and negative fields. And when you're in your 6th sense, you have a meth effect. Alert, alive, awake and aware like a child from 0 to 7. And I've made a lot of information about this. Why a child masterminds a computer game between 3 and 7 and moves 7 times faster than an adult can, pumped with adrenaline to be alert, alive, awake and aware, and no mental disorders whatsoever, no confusion, frustration. Then he goes to school and the wheels fall off, and the chemicals die between 7 and 15. And the little mastermind falls apart. But if he had inspiration and encouragement in his natural organic motor skills, with that outside influence of reality with 7-fold wisdom knowledge that guides him in that computer game, he'd be a mastermind by 24. He'd break completely free from everything and understand how to use those tools. And I'm one of them. I was put through that path for that very reason, right? And I broke free from all this, but not by 24. I was a mastermind at 24, right? But I continued to accelerate, and I continued to learn things. But I broke free from amnesia, right, at the age of 55 years old in 2016, and went through a massive, I died in 2012 and went through a transformation for 4 years. And in 2016, the Min light, the divine light came to me. And on that day, massive miracles happened that are fully recorded with evidence. And I just need you to have faith for the moment. So from that moment onwards, extraordinary things began to happen, including 6 international events at all the international airports where the system went into a glitch. And it's fully recorded with evidence as the most powerful evidence in modern history. Now, what's important about this is that I was brought up for a specific reason, and that's to address the human conditioning and resurrection itself. I brought resurrection to humanity in 2008, and all these experts explain the best way they can with self-study research and everything to back it up. But I'm living it. And because I live it, and because I use experience, wisdom, and knowledge and think outside the mind with basic common sense, people follow me are breaking free from amnesia and discovering these things. The liberation, the beauty of it, and how wonderful it is to discover yourself. Right? How unbelievable it is to discover yourself. And it's so unbelievable that all people want to do is spread the same virus. And it's supposed to spread like a virus, like a wildfire, and affect everybody. And that's what we're doing. And we have a massive, genuine success rate. And you can just follow my people that are breaking free right now. They're starting to unite now and make videos to really touch bases on this. And I want you to follow them. I want you to listen to these people that come from all walks of life that discover these things, and don't judge them mentally. Listen to what they say and what they're discovering. Okay? Because all they all want to do is share that information with you, and they want it for everybody else. That's what you have to pay attention to. Every one of my people wants this for everybody else. They have studied Jeremy Griffiths, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Jordan Peterson, Joe Dispenza, went off the breathing program. They've done the whole lot and practiced what I preached to them and discovered how to break free from amnesia in real life. They don't just speak shit about it and fall into a new belief system and use those tools to conquer and divide with and use the same inverted tools. They break free from using the inverted tools and discover who they really are. And that's what this is all about, guys. This is what resurrection humanity is. Those people that break free becomes disciples and spread that virus to everybody else. And that's what this is all about. It's about pure love, and it's about believing. So please pay attention to all the videos that I make about this, because I'm telling you right now, okay, somehow this has to spread across the planet. It is not about me. It's about you. And it's about you discovering who you are, why you're here, what the meaning of life is. And it's about you breaking free from amnesia. It's about you breaking free from the reincarnation trap, to live up the tree of life and to change the circumstances in the whole world. And we do have the power. When our principality is in the right place, God gives us that power. Trust me, okay? Because it's that power that's working right now with those frequencies of love, right? And it's the relationship. And it tells you something very important. Everything about God is good and is so loving, you have no idea. When you realize that he loves you, and these frequencies, when it comes on you, when the glory of love pours all over you, you have this incredible feeling, right, of a father loving you in ways you've never felt before in your life. And when you understand how that really genuinely feels in a way you've never felt before in your life, and that no words on earth can even explain, that feeling starts to spread to other people in such a way they feel it as well. They feel the gut feeling, the shiver in their spine, and the meth effect, and they wake up and they discover these things in a different perception, in a whole different perception that they've ever used. But they're familiar with it, and we all are. It's coded in our DNA, okay? So please understand that I have a great success rate of people discovering something completely new, and they're going into tears about this, guys. I'm serious about this, right? These guys have become so emotional and so free from the human condition everyone suffers from, free from the confusion, free from the frustration. And everybody needs some of that. We all need that love, man. So let's start moving this. And let me tell you something. Pay attention to every video from here on in. Pay attention to every single thing I deliver, and watch all the people and the success from this, and watch them and listen to them, so you too can have some of this. Because believe me, it's the greatest time to be alive, not the worst. And if you don't feel that way now, you have more to gain than you understand. And everybody has something very dramatic to gain. Don't think for 1 minute you don't. Don't oppress yourself. Don't limit yourself. Open up your heart. You're going to discover things if you follow my footsteps. Trust me on that.